We need to have a real talk about what is about to come up this summer. I'm not in the business of using astrology for fear mongering. I absolutely can't stand when other people do that. However, I think it's my responsibility to start talking and guiding through the journey of what's about to come this summer. I'm recording this in June, but July and August, we're gonna start seeing a lot of the transits, a lot of things pick up. We are all expecting to see the famous the famous trio, right, of Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune doing some fantastic date. That's how I like to call it, or a dance, une danse à trois, like a dance, like a trio dance. So all this to say that the energy is gonna be wild. If you remember what it was in April or in May, it's pretty much gonna be. It's gonna pick up again, right? And today I want to talk about the centeredness part of it because I always talk about that, right? How to keep your center in the middle of the storm because it it will feel like a storm. I think we all know that by now. No one can be surprised unless you're an alien who just landed on planet Earth this morning. If you were there in April, in March, for the last 2 years, if I can say for the last since the big event of 2020, things have been picking up steam quite a lot. So, how do we keep our center? Right, and I want to talk about three major ingredients that you need in order to stay stable in the storm that is about to unfold for the rest of the summer of this year, right? The first thing I want to talk about is we need to start seeing life as a game, a sort of a journey of sort. The reason why I'm saying that is because I noticed that we all want to know, all right, when is this over with? When is this transit gonna be over and this and that? But if I'm keeping it real, the transits are never really over, right? I'm pretty sure you can think about a moment in your life. I don't know if you've gone through your first Saturn return or your second Saturn return. If you're going through that right now or you're still trying to make sense of it, you can come and see me. We will unfold it together. All of my booking links are down below. But at the same time, I want to talk about, right, or Pluto in your first house, in your second house, or in any house, really, right? Because I can guarantee you that Pluto is going to be somewhere in your chart. Some houses might be a little bit more like WTF than others, but all this to say that there's always something happening. Always something happening. And we need to start seeing it as we need to stop being so dark about it and start, trust me, I myself done quite a lot of work to shift the mindset and learn to embrace that. Some days are harder than others, I won't lie. Sometimes when we have a lot of those energies, it can be quite intense, but it's very important for us to shift the mindset because again, like I said before, it doesn't end. And I'm not saying that in a depressing doom and gloom way, but there's always another transit, right? You do, let's take Saturn for example, right? You have your Saturn return, but then every time Saturn will hit one of your angle, either it be your IC, MC, AC, or the DC, there's gonna be things are gonna shake up. And it's not gonna it's not even that, but then it's also what other aspect is Saturn making with another critical point that you have in your chart, right? And then there are so many things, it doesn't end. There's the Pluto transit, there is Chiron return. Some of us are gonna go through Chiron return really soon, right? There's always something. So, and then you do have the universal global transits that we're all going through. For example, when Uranus entered Gemini recently and just shook things up, or when Pluto left Capricorn and entered Aquarius, and those things like that, right? And I want you to understand that we need, the best things to do is to really shift our eyes and our mindset, our views, and start seeing it as learning to appreciate the movement that is just the cycle of life. The same way those trees aren't hanging, for their dear life because summer's ending and then they don't want to go through fall, they don't want to go through winter. No, they want to stay in summer and then they're throwing a tantrum. We do that. I'm not making fun of anyone here. I'm guilty also. We all do that. We hang up, we just hold to things for our dear life. And that's why we struggle. Because the more, that's why we struggle so much, because the more we are holding on, the more chaos we tend to experience in life. So I wanted to plant that seed today. Another thing I wanted to talk about is really surrendering. Because let's be honest, the things I've been happening lately, you're like, who the hell wrote this script? That person who wrote that script deserves and all the awards that ever exist out there, right? Because you're like, wow, this is good stuff. This is premium writing here. And of course, source, God, the creator, the light, however you identify to it as, to be honest, it's all the same thing, just different branding. And we need to surrender. You need to surrender because, again, how has holding on to control been doing for you? I'm thinking about my Virgo friends. I'm not throwing shades at anyone, maybe slightly, but I do have a lot of Virgos in my circle. My some family members, one of my besties, Virgo, and we make fun of each other, right? Because this is the beauty of astrology. Once you start understanding the different archetypes, and you can stop taking yourself so seriously, because every sign has amazing parts and shadow parts, right? And it's nice to make fun and poke at one another. And I, for example, with the Virgo, the main issue could be control. Not just Virgo, I'd say like all the Earth sign, and not just the Earth sign. I think so many signs, like the water signs, also, and have that issue with control. When we're thinking about the Scorpio archetype, when we're thinking about Cancer archetype, the more I think about it, it's almost like every sign has a control, like a certain need for control. Even the fire sign, when you think about it, right? So, and the air signs not getting away, everyone's gonna get it. With the air signs, I feel like it might be a little bit shows a little bit differently. But again, where am I going with this? Because it is a human, it's part of that human DNA. Like, we want control because the unknown is so scary. Our survival is linked to knowing, right? When you think about it, when you in the tribe, you need to know, who do you rely on? Where is food? Is there a threat? Who is does the group accept you? What's your standing in the group? I hope you can hear that. It's the les pompiers ou les ambulances? Firefighters or ambulance? I think that was the ambulance. So we need to surrender. And then the beautiful thing is, the more you surrender, the more life has I like to believe that life has an innate intelligent thread that is guiding everything. There's an innate intelligence there that is guiding everything. Again, whenever I forget that, I look up to the trees. Now, I don't know what it is to be a tree, but to me, from my vantage point, it looks like they surrender. I don't think the trees are fighting for control. Maybe they are, but they surrender to the universe, to the higher power, to the order of life, because somehow, whatever is running the show, there is a rhythm to life. So we need to learn to practice surrendering, which brings me to my third and final point, because I don't really believe that we can practice true surrender, without spirituality. Now, define whatever spirituality is to you. Again, I'm going to say that spirituality and religions are two different things. Whether you are religious or not, This, I'm not talking about religion here. Whether you're religious or not, make sure that you define what spirituality is to you, because too many times I see with religion, people are just on autopilot. It's easy to be on autopilot when you grow up in a religion. You're not doing any thinking, you're not doing anything, you grew up in that, and things you're doing things just because it's always been done and that's what the community tell you to do, right? But spirituality is when we start putting our true awareness with the divine, right? We're not just, oh, you need to go to church on Sunday, or just because if you don't go to church on Sunday, you're going to go to hell, right? When I grew up, that's what they would tell me. Like, I went to Catholic school, and we were told that all the time, right? Instead, we want to start nourishing a very intimate and what's the word that was in my head that just escaped me, mindful relationship with the divine. Because let's be honest, there is some superior force, that is source, that is orchestrating all of this beauty, right? And in the beauty, I include everything. I include the what we call the bad times, let's say, the what we call the good times, but it's all a balancing act, and it's a beautiful dance. So that's what spirituality is to me. To put it really simple, is mindful relationship with what is greater than yourself, that source, that divine, God, the light, the universe, whatever you want to call it. It's very important. And this is where, what is prayer? This is where you can implement prayer with that source, because you have to understand that God, the concept of God, I'm not saying God from a religious point of view, right? But let's say God to me is that great divine thing that we don't even understand, that huge big energy that oversees everything. We don't even, our mind can't even begin to wrap itself around the concept of God, the concept of source, the concept of divine intelligence, right? Divine intelligence. So have a relationship with this, because that universe, that divine, the spark is also within you. So we want to start fostering a relationship with the divine within us. And then, you know how it's crazy when I realized that, because again, growing up in Catholic school, we were always taught that God is up there. It's not really, yes, we're created in the image of God, but besides that, it's up there. You need to have a middleman to reach God. But then the more you doing spirituality, you realize God is within you. You don't, whether you choose to be religious or not, you are already connected to that divine by just being you, by having a soul, because the soul is eternal and the soul is part of that great light, that great divinity that doesn't never dies, right? That lives on forever. So you need to start having a relationship with this. So this is why I think you can't surrender without spirituality. You can't surrender without having that relationship with the divine. Again, whatever it is, whatever it means for you. Some people find themselves in Eastern philosophies, in Buddhism. To other people, it's not even any organized spirituality, just taking the time and meditating with their plants every day, or just sitting down and meditating and connecting with their heart. Whatever it is, this is the beauty of this. It is very personal and intimate to each one of us. And it's a beautiful relationship. The more you nourish it, the more it grows. And this is where I want to start encouraging you, because as time gets wild, this is how we find our ground, right? And also my goal here is to use astrology to help us in this journey, because I think astrology has been around for thousands of years, and there's a reason why throughout all the various persecution in different time, it just survived. And I think it's a beautiful guidance system for all of us. And also it's the language of the stars and the universe and metaphysics, and And I'm all about that stuff. So to sum today's episode up, right, as the times are gonna get quicker and faster or more crazy and wild with AI overstimulation left and right, finding your center, bringing it back to three simple steps. First of all, learn to appreciate the dance of life, of uncertainty, and embrace that, and try to see the beauty in it, right? In the constant change, because everything changes in life. Nothing is static. Pretty much static, being static is associated with death, right? Everything that is alive is always moving. So learn to see, appreciate the beauty of life as in it's all a game and not taking it too seriously. Second of all, spirituality, define, explore your own spirituality. And also with the third point, they're all kind of linked with it, one another, is surrendering to a force outside of yourself. And that is it for you today, my love. As usual, I leave my consultation link down below if you wanted to revise anything with me, anything you're going through in life. I love using astrology as a way to guide you and with your own personal chart and transits. And on that note, keep shining bright like a diamond. I will see you in the next one, my love.